everyone, and welcome to my first annual Archery Darwin Awards. You know, this came to me because locally we had a hunting accident involved 2 archers. And, you know, some of these hunting accidents, you just really gotta say, duh. So, let's start off, shall we? Our first one comes from Indiana. This past hunting season, at least 8 hunters in Indiana alone have fallen from their tree stands and have required medical assistance. One such archer, ironically named David Archer, he's 60 years old. Well, guess what? Old David, he fell asleep and fell out of the tree stand. 20 feet up in the air. Now, luckily for David, he's able to get his cell phone and he's able to call up and have the ambulance come pick him up. Now, you know, here's the obvious question. David, where was your safety strap? And 2, you're a little old, ain't you? You know, be out there early in the morning, sleeping a little bit too much. And finally, this story just goes to prove that age and wisdom, they just don't always mean they go together. On a side note, according to police, accidents involving tree stands are the #1 accidents in archery in the state of Indiana. We'll be back right after these messages with our next story.
Ben Pearson Archery, the world's leader in archery products. Well, at least we were until we got sold to the Leisure Group, who ran us into the ground and sold us to somebody else, who ran us even more into the ground, who sold us to somebody else, who sold us to somebody else. You get the point. We're running into the ground. We're still out there, but we've been running the ground. But for years, we were the top manufacturer. We were producing tournament champions. Our bows were taking big game. We made some of the best bows in the world. Now the only place you can find our bows, yard sales, estate sales, online auctions, and eBay. Ben Pearson Archery.
Welcome back, everybody. Our second one is a classic case of mistaken identity, this time from Michigan. In Michigan, a group of hunters went out on a 55-acre tract of land to hunt. One hunter didn't know the area, so he just sat off to the side of a logging road. Meanwhile, the other guys walked up the logging road and they said they saw something move and they turned on a flashlight. Now, they told the police once they turned on their flashlight, they heard an arrow being released and one of the persons was hit. Now the guy with the flashlight was the one, and he got hit in the head. Now the victim fell to the ground, got up, not too happy, went over and started punching the shooter. Now the victim, after he started beating the snot out of this guy, went to the hospital. 70 stitches in the side of his head. Now here's my points. Some things. One, the guy that shot him, how many deers carry flashlights? Now, in the guy's defense, he claims he thought it was a deer, he shot, and then the flashlight came on. Now, the guys that got shot said it was the opposite way around, so somebody's not telling the truth. Again, these guys are in a group. How many deers walk on 2 feet? How many of them carry a flashlight? Here's the good part. You know, since we're a bunch of buddies that went out hunting, I wonder who invited the guy that shot the other people. I bet you that guy's in a little bit of trouble too, don't you think? All right. Here's our second one. We'll be back with our third one after these messages from our non-existent sponsors.
This show was made possible by Inner Strength Karate, the Hudson Valley's premier home for karate and kickboxing training. Well, duh. That's how I make my living. And if I didn't have a living making money, I couldn't afford to make these videos. But with that said, it's still an awesome place to go.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our next story comes from the great state of Massachusetts. And this one involves a father and son team. Brett, 52 years old, went out hunting with his dad, David, 79 years old. And both were hunting from tree stands. Now Brett, for whatever reason, climbed out of his stand, started moving around in the grass bushes below. Now David, the dad, shot him. You know, Dad says he thought it was a deer. All right, he's 79, we might give him a pass on that. And God bless you for 79 being out there hunting. Unlike the other guy who fell asleep, fell out of the tree, David was able to stay awake. Couldn't tell if his son was a deer or not, but he was awake. Now, Dad, did you have a grudge against your son? Did he, do something to you? Don't worry. Good old David only shot his son Brett in the leg, and all's well, and, they got a great story to tell at parties and family reunions for the next how many years. But on the bright side, it's been reported that no criminal charges will be filed. All right, the next one, it's actually a sad one because this is one of the few, and I was a little tough about picking it because it's a fatality. But I had to pick it just for how it happened. Now this story comes from, of all places, get a hold of this, Transylvania County, North Carolina. Transylvania? That's where Dracula's from. Well, there's two men out hunting on private property, and they were both using crossbows. They'd been out for a couple of hours, they said, when one guy mistook the other person for a deer and shot him. Now, no, I'm not too quick, but most crossbows have scopes. So this guy looked at another guy using a scope and thought he was a deer. What was this guy wearing? Now, if you're going to go out hunting with a partner, it's a pretty good idea to keep eye contact with them, be able to see each other at all times. Unlike these two got separated and they obviously went their own separate ways, and old Billy Bob seen Jimmy Joe, so hey, there's a deer. Now, the police reported that neither man was wearing their blaze orange. And the reason for that is, in North Carolina, it's not mandatory to do it. It's only mandatory for rifle hunting. What? So one group gets to wear it, and the other group doesn't. Duh. You know what? You go hunting, wear some orange. That's a pretty stupid law. All right, we're going to be back with another awesome story after this brief message.
Are you a traditional archer? Then I have the place for you. ETAR, the Eastern Traditional Archers Rendezvous, held every July in Coudersport, Pennsylvania. This is the end-all, be-all of traditional archery, with 8 3D archery courses, specialty targets, vendors, events, demonstrations, food. Be there. The best traditional archery event in the United States. ETAR.
Welcome back, everybody. We're down to our final 3 stories. Up next, we go to the wonderful state of Washington, where 2 men were hunting in a pickup truck. How do you hunt in a pickup truck? Now, I knew a Cajun in the Army who used to go on post, sit in the middle of nowhere, turn on the headlights, Bambies would freeze, he'd nail them, throw them in the back. But that's called poaching. So I don't know. And these guys said they weren't poaching. Well, 2 guys said they spotted an elk, and they got out of the truck to go after it. Now here's the good part. One man was carrying a crossbow, and the police said it was legal for him to carry it because he is disabled. Wait a second. He's disabled, so he's using a crossbow. Maybe that's why they're in the truck? But then they got out of the truck to track a deer. How disabled are you if you can track a deer through the woods? Now, when they were out here tracking the elk, the disabled guy, he had a crossbow. The guy behind him had a compound bow. And when they're tracking him, they let the guy with the crossbow lead. All right? Now, if you got a disabled guy, should he be the one stalking the elk? I don't know. Just a thought. Well, guess what? As they're walking, the guy in front stopped suddenly. And the guy in the rear with the compound bow had an arrow in his, all set up to go, and must not have been paying attention because he stabbed his buddy in the back. He's an old backstabber. Okay, so you're hunting in a truck because the guy's disabled. But they got out and they walked through the woods with a disabled guy with a crossbow, and they walked in a single file. And the guy in the back didn't see the guy in front of him, who he knew was disabled. Stop! And he walked in and stabbed him. You know, that's not my type of hunting, partners. All right. Our next story comes from the great state of Utah. And this is another buddy story. 4 guys went hunting in the woods. Sounds like a bad hunting joke, doesn't it? Well, one hunter named TJ moved ahead of everybody else so he could film them. Nope. Bad idea, TJ. Well, guess what? As TJ was filming everybody and they're all probably going, guess what ran behind him? Good old buck. Well, what does his buddy do? Oh, yeah! Yep, they all drew on the buck. TJ, seeing everybody drawn, realized he was in trouble. And like any good American, TJ started running. The same way the buck ran. Well, the guy that shot TJ swears that he tried to throw his shot away. And while he was doing so, the arrow accidentally released. And at that exact moment, TJ froze. Yeah, TJ got struck in the neck. He's okay. The broadhead had the little springy ones out, and it didn't spring out. And if it did, it would have cut his carotid artery, and he would have died. Guys, I know you all love videos of what you're doing, but duh, you don't stand in front of people with weapons. Not a good idea. All right, after this message, we'll be back with our #1 story. And I just love this one. All right, everybody, welcome back. And my winner for the 2014 Darwin Awards comes from my own little town that I live in called Beacon, New York. 2 guys here in Dutchess County, New York, separate, didn't know each other, were out hunting. One guy from the little town that I live in called Beacon, and from the town next to us called Wappingers. Now the first guy, we don't know who shot who, they didn't tell us. Well, he shot and killed a deer. All right. It turns out he's trying to remove the deer from the woods using a cart. They were on property owned by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. So they had to walk a little bit distance in the woods. So here's my first point. The guy brought a cart with him out into the woods. Okay, fine, I can buy that. So as old Bubba here is pushing his cart with a dead deer on it through the woods, the second guy seen the deer moving and shot at it. Now, dead deer in a cart. The guy swears that this deer, it looked alive. How can a dead deer being pushed in a cart in the woods look alive? The head's more like, it wasn't going, it was, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a deer who could walk horizontally. To make it even better, the guy that shot at this deer that he swears was alive. Now, before I tell you this, if you pushed a cart with a dead deer on it through the woods, I bet it's not too easy. And I bet you if I was pushing it, I would be grunting and cussing. I would not be walking through the woods all quiet and ninja-like. You'd be cracking things and making noise. But rocket scientist boy here, I didn't pay no attention. That's a deer, gonna get me a deer. Well, guess what? He shot at the deer. And he missed! He missed the deer and hit the guy in the hand and in the butt cheeks. Now, this one I just love. One, a guy brings a cart in the woods to carry a deer. And this guy is so deadly quiet pushing a dead deer that another hunter seen that deer moving, but didn't see the person pushing the cart, didn't hear all the noise, and didn't see it laying over with its tongue sticking out and look. He thought it was alive and he shot at it. And to top it all off, he misses. And he hits this guy in the hand and the butt cheek. You know, folks, you just can't make this stuff up. Well, boys and girls, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I will see you next week with an all-new episode of 3D Archery. Cue the music.